you know it because you're out there, as you live life, as you're doing things that you need to do during the week. It's easy to get distracted. And it's easy to be hindered in the things that you want to do, the things that you desire to do. And that's nothing new, guys, because even Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, even he said the same thing. The things that I want to do, I don't do. And the things I don't want to do, I find myself doing. Right? How many of you guys have been there? And so there's nothing new there. And how do we get beyond that? How do we get beyond that? And then part of the problem is that we have so many people, the body at large. When I talk about the body, yes, I'm talking about, our local ministry here and other ministries around, but I'm talking about really the body around the earth. The body of Messiah, wherever we may be. There are parts of the body that we're connected to that we don't even know. And so we are still connected, though. And as the body, truly, as we said earlier, if one part of the body suffers, we all suffer. If part of the body is doing well and rejoicing, then we all rejoice. That's how it should be. Lift each other up, pray for one another, and do these things. The problem is, what happens if parts of the body decide they don't need other parts of the body and try to go do their own thing? You might be able to do some things pretty well, but there's a lot you can't do. No? Think about literally in the form of you and your body. Take one piece, take a hand. The hand can do a lot of stuff. It can't do everything. Can't see, can't hear, can't taste, can't smell. So there's a lot that we have to consider. And one of the problems is, what do we focus on that we can come into a place of unity around? Because let's be real for a second. As if we're not anyway. But let's just be real for a second. There are so many things for us not to agree on. Is that true? There are so many things for us to not agree on, for us to be at odds with each other, for us to get in arguments and all these things about. There's plenty out there. But do we choose to focus on the things that bring us together into a place of unity? Because you can have two people looking at the same thing but seeing two completely different things. Because we're different parts of the body. We have different personalities, different life experiences, different things. And so we may look at the same thing, and it's like on both sides are going, see, it says it right there. And the other side going, see, it says it right there. And both that saying they're right and you're wrong. Or better yet, you ever find two people that are arguing and they're saying the same thing, but they're arguing about it? How do these things happen? We have to be better than that. We have to focus on the things that bring the Father's heart to our midst. We have to focus on the things that allow the Father to show Himself. If we're always seeking strife and contention and discord, when are we ever seeking the truth? Because these are things that people say, we look for all the falsehood for the sake of truth. Problem is, that's not truth, that's false. If we're looking for truth, then we're going to see truth. Our discernment is one-sided. So we need to focus on the things that the Father has told us we need to focus on. Things that bring life, things that bring peace, things that bring joy. And I am not saying bury your head in the sand, and I'm not saying be naive, and I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is where you put your focus and your heart and your intent in your life affects everything you do. Affects your attitude. Let's not be the 10 spies who went into the land who brought back a slanderous report of the land. Because the two brought back a report that was not slanderous. But they all testified of the same things. So why was the 10 slanderous and the 2 was not? It wasn't about what they saw, what they experienced. It was about their attitude about what they saw and what they experienced. 10 said, we can't go up. We can't do it. 2 said, Yahweh said it's ours. What are we waiting for? So these are the things that we need to focus on. Part of the Father and things He called us to. We're going to focus on Philippians 2 today. Philippians 2, verses 1 to 15. So it says, therefore, if there is any encouragement in Messiah, if there is any comfort of love, if there is any fellowship of the Ruach, if there is any mercy and compassion, to make my joy complete by being of what? In mind, having the same love, united in spirit, one purpose. And let it be known that one purpose is not mine. It's his. Fortunately, we're like, we need to be united for the same things, of course, for my cause. That was like the battle cry of Korah. We need to seek the Father. Let that be our purpose. Let that be what he's called. Seek the same love. It's his love, godly love. That's what we need to follow. Okay, so a couple things. Same mind. Whose mind? His mind. Scripture says, but we have the mind of Messiah, right? That's what we need to pursue. His heart, his thoughts, his intent. How do we do that? Oh, if you go back to what we just read, verse 2, make my joy complete by being of the same mind, having. So how do we do that? How do we be of the same mind? Having the same love, united in spirit with one purpose. We have a common purpose. That purpose is to glorify and testify of the one who redeemed us and saved us. Testify of him. That's our purpose. To declare his kingdom here in the earth, to walk in his ways. Our purpose. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and your might. That's our purpose. If we keep that as the central focus, then nothing that can. Because it's not our will we're seeking, it's his. It's not our desires we're seeking, it's his. And there's nothing that can stop. There is none like him, and none can stop. So, where else do we see this? Wherever our focus is, that's what we become like. That makes sense? The things that you continually put in you affects your attitude, your heart, the things that you do in life, the things that you consider important. All of that, what you bring into you, it affects all of that. You know what Scripture says? Like even now we see dimly and darkly, but as we behold Him, we change from glory to glory, right? The more we pursue Him, the more His Word is in our hearts, the more we become like Him. We're walking in. He equips us to do that because as we're getting in His Word, He says He writes it on our hearts. He's putting it in you, but we are purposefully reading it and trying to live it. It's not just about reading it, it's about reading it and live it so that it really gets. So where should we keep our hearts and our minds focused? To Yahweh, yes. But also that doesn't mean that we can't live. Because you have to live in this world. You have to testify of the one you serve in this world. Right? So is there any way that we can all be who Yahweh called us to be, not have all the divisiveness and fighting? If I had to oversimplify it, I could say this: be humble. Be humble. None of us know everything. None of us have it all figured. And if anybody tells you they do, run. We're all on the same path. You know, here we are, we're seeking the Father. We're all walking this direction. But if we're all different parts of the body, we're all going to have something that the other part may not have seen yet, may not have experienced yet, may not have known yet. You've got life experiences that I don't, and vice versa. There are people that in your life that come in contact with you who I may never see. And so you have things that you can testify of that I can't. So when we all come together, that's when the body is truly whole. When we're all learning from one another and helping each other and doing that, that's when the body is whole. So it's a matter of, can I put it this way too? Yes, be humble, but can I put it this way too? Be willing to mature. What do I mean by that? You ever notice the older you get, the wiser your parents were? Think about it. And when you were a kid, your parents, they just don't get it. Right? And when you start getting a little older, 30s, wow, my dad was so wise. Grow up. Sure. That means as you grow, your focus on things of life change. And you start to see some things that you thought was such a big deal is not such a big deal. 2-year-old who drops their snack on the ground. Oh my goodness. Just like pick it up. So as we grow, things change. We need to mature. We need to trust. You know, it's hard sometimes when we talk about our fathers because not everybody had good fathers. Not everybody had a great example of what that's supposed to be. It's unfortunate. But our Heavenly Father is good. He is perfect and gracious. He is compassionate. He wants us to walk with Him in His ways. He calls us together as part of the body to be trained up to walk with Him. Look at this. Ephesians 4:11-16. He Himself gave some to be emissaries, some as prophets, some as proclaimers of the good news, some as shepherds and teachers, to equip the kedoshim, to equip the holy ones. What is the purpose of people who are in ministry? This is the purpose, to train the people to do the work of the service, to train the people to live a life of service, to train the people to show and manifest the kingdom of Yahweh out there. It's not about what happens in the room. We're talking together. It's about what happens when you leave and you go live your life and you're out there with, everyday world. Equipped to handle it. Or are you being trained for that? Your discernment, that kind of a life. That's what we're talking about here. To equip the kedoshim, to equip the holy ones for the work of the service, for building up the body of the Messiah. This will continue until we all come to, what's that say? Unity of faith. In order to have unity of faith, every now and then there's got to be some people in our lives to tell us we need to not focus over here, we need to focus over here. Does that make sense? Much like when we're raising our kids, and they want to focus on these things over here, you're like, no, you need to focus on these things over here right now. That's what we need to be doing right now. So Yahweh gives us the same thing. He tells us these are the things we need to be focusing on. The problem is sometimes we get so distracted with all these other things that we're not paying attention to what He's telling us we should be focusing on because we're so enraptured by what's in front, right? He sees beyond what's in front of us. We need to trust Him to be trained for that. So continue till we all come to the unity of faith and to the knowledge of Ben Elohim, the Son of Elohim, to mature adulthood, to the measure of the stature of Messiah's fullness. Verse 14. As a result, what does it say the result of that is? We will no longer be like children, tossed around by waves and blown around by every wind of teaching. What's another word for wind? Ruach, by wind or spirit of teaching, deceptive, all these different things. By trickery of men with cunning and deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth how? In love. There's a difference between speaking the truth and speaking the truth in love. I can tell you the truth because I'm right, or I can tell you the truth because I care about you. Two people can be speaking the exact same thing, and one of them, you're like, I don't trust you. I'll believe you. Even if they're saying the same thing. Why is that? That's what the Father's called us to do. Speak the truth. Speak the truth in love. It's not about I'm right, you're wrong. It's about I care about you, what's going to happen to you in this life and after it. That's the key. It's going to affect everything that you do. Speaking the truth in love, we're to grow up and always into the Messiah who is the head. So from Him, the whole body is fitted and held together by every supporting ligament. Proper working of each individual part produces the body's growth for building itself up in love. Messiah is the head, which He is, then everything we do will be growing up into focusing on what He has called us to do, how He has asked us to live, and how He says, follow me as His disciples. That's going to affect how we do these things. We are a body, then a body needs to function so it benefits the body, right? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my hand doesn't think of its own and decide, I'm going to go grab a knife and stab another part of the body. We need, as the body, need to be parts to benefit the whole body. And if there are parts in the body that decide to go rogue, then the body is sick. And the whole body suffers. So we need to be seeking the heart of the Father in everything. We need to be asking Him, for His heart and His desires and all these things all the time. We need to get in the Word, yes, all the time. But we also need to be mindful of the things that not just bless Him, but build the body. So these are the things we're looking to do. Look, Jeremiah 32, 37 to 41. To see, I will gather them out of all the countries where I have driven them in my anger, my fury, my great wrath, and I will bring them back to this place and cause them to dwell securely. They will be my people, and I will be their God. I will give them what? One heart. Whose heart is he going to give them? His. His heart. I will give them one heart and one way. See, the one heart and one way goes together. Yeshua said he is the way, the truth, and the life. One heart and one way. He will give us his heart, show us how to walk in his ways, so that they may fear me forever for their good and their children after them. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them. I will never turn away from doing good for them. I will put my fear in their hearts. They will not depart from me. Yes, I will delight in doing good for them with all my heart and all my soul. I will in truth plant them in this land. You know, whenever I read this verse, you may have heard this before, but I feel it's worth saying again. There's something there's really a lot of amazing things about this portion of Scripture, but we're talking about restoration here. And there is only one place in the entirety of Scripture where God says, I will do something with all my heart and soul. Only one place. If Yahweh says that, he does something with all his heart and soul. I think it's important to him? Absolutely. If it's that important to him, should it be important to us? Absolutely. Is it? Light and doing good for them, all my heart and soul. And I return the people from all the nations, bring them back to the land that he declared for them. Give them heart. Walk in him. That's amazing. Ezekiel 11, 17 to 21. Therefore, thus says Adonai Elohim, I will gather you from the people and collect you out of the countries where you have been scattered. I will give you the land of Israel. And when they come there, they will remove all the detestable things and all of its abominations. Then I will give them one heart. And I will put a new spirit within them. And I will remove the heart of stone from their flesh, and I will give them a heart of flesh. Why? Why does it say that Yahweh equips them with his spirit? He gives his Ruach HaKodesh. He gives the people his spirit for what purpose? He says it. He says, so that they may follow my laws, keep my ordinances, and practice them. They will be my people, and I will be their God. And as for those whose heart walks after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will bring their ways upon their heads. It is a declaration of Adonai Elohim. A good test of where you're at, how do you approach the Word of God? Do you look at the Word of Yahweh and say, well, I have to do this, or else, I shall be smoten? Or is it a matter of relationship? I love Yahweh. I love that He has redeemed me, that He has saved me, that He has given me a better life and a promise and a hope of a future. And because I love Him and I am in relationship with Him, I want to walk where He is. So therefore, I hear His word. It says, because I love Him. Not because I'm trying to get something, trying to earn my way into it. Do we approach the word of Yahweh, do this because I love Him, or But going on. Ezekiel 36, 24 to 28. So I will take you from the nations, gather you out of the countries, bring you back in your own land, and I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean from all your uncleanness and your idols, and I will give you a new heart. And I will put a new spirit within you. And I will remove the stony heart from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my Ruach within you, and I will cause you to walk in my laws, so you will keep my rulings and do them. You will live in the land that I gave to your fathers, and you will be my people, and I will be your God. Place of unity. When Yahweh calls all of his people home, he's not going to call them all home and then go, well, this didn't work, go on back. When we get to the New Jerusalem, we're going to have to be around each other. Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfishness or conceit. With humility, consider others as more important than yourselves, looking out not only for your own interest, but the interest of others. Have this attitude in yourselves, which also was in. Can you imagine? Even Yeshua. I mean, if anyone had the right to say, do you know who I am? Anyone had the right to say that, it would have been him. He never acted that way. Matter of fact, he said the opposite, really. He came to serve. He came to show us how to honor. Look at this. Jacob and John, sons of Zebedee, they asked to sit at Yeshua's right and left hand in his glory. And what happens there? Mark 10:41. So when the 10 heard, they started to get angry with Jacob and John, and calling them over, Yeshua said to them, you know those recognized as rulers of the nations lord it over them, and their great ones played a tyrant over them. Yet it is not this way among you. Whoever wants to be great among you shall be what? Whoever wants to be first among you shall be slave of all. See, the way the kingdom of Yahweh works is kind of upside down. And because it's completely opposite of the ways of the world, isn't it? The greatest among you will be one who serves, not looking to be. And again, we're talking about truly seeking. Verse 45. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, to give his life as a ransom. Guys, isn't Yeshua our example? He says, no greater love is this than a man lay down his life for us. That's love. Their life down. John 15:8. In this my Father is glorified. In what? In this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit. Prove to be my disciple. What does it mean to be a disciple? Be a disciple means you're a student. You're learning. And we never stop. Let us pursue him. Continue to follow after his. Look at verse 9. Just as the Father has loved me, I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. See that? Because of our love for him, we walk in his ways. And then he says, you abide in his love. We're doing what he's asking us to do. We're walking with him. Verse 11. These things I have spoken to you so that my joy may be in you. Joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another. Can you imagine having to be commanded to love one another? Think about that for a second. This is my commandment to you, that you love one another. How many of you guys have said this to your children? Guys, knock it off. Act like you like each other. This is my commandment, that you love one another. It says again, no greater. Ephesians 6:7. Serve with a what? Positive attitude. As to whom? To the Lord. As to Yahweh, not men. The things that you do in this life, especially when you're serving and doing things for other people, it's not for them, really. It's for a testimony about the one that you serve. You're not really serving them. You're serving Yahweh. And the real good testimony of that, real good fact of that, is when nobody else sees it. Nobody else sees it. When no one else is going to see it, no one else is going to know about it. Verse 8, knowing that whatever good each one does, this he will receive back from the Lord, whether slave or free. The principle is true. That which you give is returned to you. Yeshua said so. He says, given it will be given to you. That was a spiritual principle about everything in life. That which you give will be returned to you. You give life, you get life. You give blessing, you get blessing. You speak blessing to one another, you get that back. Whatever you do to others will be returned. Isaiah 43:10. You are my witnesses, says Adonai, and my servant. If we're a witness for Yahweh, then we're also his servants. Interesting. Moshe, before his death, during Moshe's life, he was called Moshe, the man of God, right? But in his death, he was Moshe, the servant. It was a different thing. So you are my witnesses, says Adonai, and my servant whom I have chosen, so that you can know and trust me and understand that I am he. No God was produced before me, nor will any be after me. I am Adonai. Besides me, there is no deliverer. I have declared, saved, and proclaimed, not some alien God among you. Therefore, you are my witnesses. He's called us to be witnesses for Him in this life. In order to be a witness for anything, a witness can only testify of what they have experienced firsthand. Even in a court of law today, you cannot testify of what somebody else said or what somebody else saw or what, you can only testify of what you have experienced. To be a witness for Yahweh, you have to have a relationship with Him. Otherwise, you're bearing false witness. Exodus 19, 1 and 2. So on the third new moon after the people of Israel had gone out from the land of Egypt, that day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. They set out from Rephidim, and they came to the wilderness of Sinai, and they encamped. This is interesting. I'm going to go this word encamp right here. I'm going to tell you about this in just a second. They encamped in the wilderness, and there Israel encamped, and it's Shem. It's a different word that's given there. So it says Israel encamped in the wilderness, and Israel encamped before the mountain. Written differently in this area. The word to camp is chana, which means to incline or to decline, typically to pitch a tent or to make a camp, right? But the way this is written, it's pretty interesting. Verse 2, we see the word camp is twice. Okay, now look at this. First instance says that Israel encamped. Vayachanu, plural. So it's a plural form of the word, suggesting they encamped in like a sporadic fashion. They're present, they're around, they pitched their camps wherever, right? But then it says that they camped at the mountain of Sinai. The word is singular, vayachan. So, and Israel camped, that's a plural, and so they got, but then when it talks about them being at Sinai, it says they camped, and it's a singular word, like I'm talking to a person, like about one person. So when they came before the mountain, they stood as one. One of the things that Yahweh will do for His people, bring us together to we're really big in America about personal relationship with Yahweh, personal relationship with God. It's just about you and God and nobody else. Guys, yes, your personal relationship with Yahweh is very important, okay? Cannot negate the fact that part of it. People. So your personal relationship have an impact. John 17:20 says, I pray not only for these, but also for those who will trust in me because of their word, that they may all be what? One. Yeshua praying for His disciples, He said, I pray that they all may be one. Just as you, Father, are united with me and I on you, I pray that they may be united with us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory which you have given to me, I've given to them, so they may be one just as we are one. We are one with Yahweh, but in this, if we're all one with Yahweh, then we're all one with each other as well. All part of that body. Philippians 2:6. Who through the existing in the form of God did not consider being equal to God a thing to be grasped, but He emptied Himself, taking on the form of a slave, becoming the likeness of men and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled Himself, becoming obedient to the point of death, even to the death on the cross. So we're talking about humility, obedience. 1 Peter 5:5 and 6 says, likewise, you younger ones, submit yourself to the elders, and all of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to whom? The humble. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God so that He may lift you up at the appropriate time. We're walking in humility. God may have shown you some amazing and profound things. Share them. Let's be humble. Share other things to other people too. It's not just about what revelation God has given you. It's about what revelation God has given you and how you and your part of the body can share it with the rest of the body and how we can also learn from each other. Growing together. 1 Peter 2:7. Unto you, therefore, which believe, He is precious, but unto them which is disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. There's an interesting comparison that's given here, because Peter is comparing belief with obedience. As he says, to you who believe, He is precious. But he does not say, but those who are unbelief. No, he says those who are disobedient. He's comparing belief and obedience. So in other words, if you believe, you'll be obedient. If you don't believe, you will not be obedient. So again, it comes down to, you can say you believe something when it comes down to it, unless it changes how you live, you don't really believe it. That's where it becomes real, isn't it? Say you believe something, when the time comes to actually walk in it, then you know if you really believe it. Time comes to be tested in it, then you know if you really believe it. Deuteronomy 7 through 9. Yahweh did not set his love upon you nor choose you because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people, but because Yahweh loved you. Why did Yahweh choose his people? He loved. Keep reading. And because he kept the oath that he swore to your fathers. It's because he loved you and because he made covenant, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. So because of his love and his covenant, here he is. As he loved you and he would keep the oath he had sworn to your fathers, as Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of the bondman from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know therefore that Yahweh your God, he is God, the faithful God, which keeps covenant and mercy them that love him. What are you guys looking at? Oh, that's not the end of the verse. Oh, what else does it say? And keep his commandments. How do we show we love him? Walk in him. John 14:15, Yeshua says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And again, keeping his commandments is an outgrowth of our love for him. We do what Yahweh has said because we love him. That's different than just saying, I have to do. No, you don't have to do anything. You choose to do what you do. Why do you choose? Birth out of our love for him? John 15:8. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. He wants us to bear good fruit. Here my Father is glorified, that you bear fruit, so you shall be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue in my love, and if you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love. Even I has kept my Father's commandments. Again, Yeshua says, just as I have kept my Father's commandments. His love, that's 1 John 5:2. We know that we love God's children by this, when we love God and... For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. You know the only time his commandments are burdensome to us? When we don't want to do it. Make sense? Put it this way. Because we don't want to die. Old man brought to life. Flesh, the old nature, the old ways, needs to live. Just believe the 613 mitzvot were said to Moshe at Sinai. You know the word of Yahweh. How many of you have heard talking about the 613 mitzvot? It's not written in the Torah that way. Okay? Nowhere does Yahweh say, I'm giving you 613 mitzvot. And these are, mitzvot just means commands, right? So, interesting though, if you want to codify it that way, in the New Testament there's over 1,000. Okay? And they don't contradict the Torah at all in any place. But 613 mitzvot, it was a way that throughout history man has chosen to codify and categorize what Yahweh has given. To put it this way, I want to know what Yahweh has to say about this subject. Where do I find that? It's just a quick way to reference. Okay? So I'm not saying that the 613 mitzvot are evil because guess what? They're in the scripture. Okay? It was just another way to kind of categorize to put this. So this is just 613 mitzvot were given to Moshe at Sinai. David spoke of them as 11. 11 mitzvot. How did he kind of, let's just say, simplify it? Psalms 15, verses 1 through 5. Psalm of David, Adonai, who may dwell in your tent, who may live in your holy mountain? Okay, what are these 11 things? The one who walks with integrity, who does what is right, speaks truth in his heart, who does not slander with his tongue, does not wrong his neighbor, does not disgrace his friend, who despises a vile person in his eyes, but honors those who fears Adonai, who keeps his oath even when it hurts, does not change. who lends his money without usury and takes no bribe against the innocent. One who does these things will never be shaken. Isaiah spoke of them as six. Isaiah 33:15. One who walks righteously and speaks uprightly, who refuses unjust gain by extortion, who takes his hands free of bribes, who stops his ears from hearing of bloodshed and shuts his eyes looking on evil. Micah spoke of them as three. Micah 6:8. He has told you, humanity, what is good and what Adonai is seeking from you. What is it? Only to practice justice, love, mercy, walk humbly with your God. Later, Isaiah comes back again and kind of speaks of them as two. Isaiah 56:1, thus says Adonai, preserve justice, do righteousness. For my salvation is about to come, and my righteousness is revealed. Habakkuk spoke of them as a single principle. Habakkuk 2:4, behold, the puffed up one, his soul is not right within him, but the righteous will live by his faith. Guys, that sounds familiar. Where have we heard that before? 17. By faith, that's quoting from. Then, Yeshua said them as two, which are really one. How do you do that? Matthew 22:35-40. Testing them, a lawyer said, teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the Torah? And he said to him, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The entire Torah and the prophets hang on these two commandments. He's saying on these two things, they're intertwined as one, because when you're doing this, you are keeping the entirety of the Torah if you just do these two things, because everything in the Torah comes down to one of these two issues. You want to categorize the things in the Torah, it's going to fall under one of these two things. How to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. All of these is the word of Yahweh to us. Now the thing is, none of these things that I've just read really contradict one another, because they're all talking about different ways to approach the word of Yahweh and trying to find ways that we can pursue it and walk in it. And to do that, this is just another example of these things. How do we focus to get in the word, to live it without the arguing and the fighting and doing these things? Each one of these has a different area of focus, but ultimately the heart of it, seek Yahweh in what you do to approach one another. Show that in daily life. Philippians 2:9. For this reason, God highly exalted him and gave him the name that is above every name, that at the name of Yeshua every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue profess Yeshua the Messiah is Lord, to the glory of the Father. What we're saying here is stay focused on the main thing. What is the main thing? Covenant relationship. Covenant relationship is the main thing. Everything else we do is birthed out of that. Even when you go back to the 10 words were given at Mount Sinai, right? What is the first commandment that was given of the 10? People say, oh, that have no other idols before me, right? And have no other gods before me kind of thing, right? Well, actually, in the 10 Commandments, when it is given, the very first thing he says is, I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. Very first commandment of everything is, I am Yahweh your God. How is that a commandment? Because the very first thing we attest to is relationship with him. If we do not have that relationship with him, then everything else that's given there, we won't care. Because of the relationship we have with him, then everything that follows after that we do, because he is my God. Covenant relationship, the important thing. Romans 11:16-18. If the first fruit is holy, so is the whole batch of dough, and if the root is holy, so are the branches. But if some of the branches were broken off, and you, being a wild olive, were grafted in among them and became a partaker of the root of the olive tree with its richness, do not boast against the branches, but if you do boast, it is not you who support the root, but the root supports you. You are part of a body. It's kind of like talking about the tree, right? The root supports the branches, the tree. If you remove the root system, any wind that comes along, what's going to happen to that tree? It's going to fall over. And that's why we need to have good roots. Strong, firm, right? Secure. Fruit is given us to be a covenant people. Walk with him. Psalm 111, 6-9. He shows his people his powerful deeds and giving them a heritage of the nations. The works of his hands are truth and justice. All his precepts are trustworthy. They are upheld forever and ever, made in truth and uprightness. And he has sent redemption to his people. He has ordained his covenant, next word, forever. Holy and awesome. Yahweh keeps covenant. If Yahweh does not keep covenant, what hope do we have that the promises he made us is going to remain true? He keeps covenant. Trust that. So because he made promises to us, we can stand. Deuteronomy 29, 9-14. And the mountain, he says again here, you are standing here today, all of you. This was all Israel. All of them. You are standing here before Adonai your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders, your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, the outsider within your camp. See, even those who were not Israel, who were yet coming in and being a part of Israel, even though they weren't born into any of Israel. They wanted to serve the one true God and be a part of his people. Each of you is to cross over into the covenant of Adonai your God that he is cutting with you today and into his oath. See, he made this covenant with a people, Israel, but each person in that community had to make that decision if they were going to walk in that covenant or not. It's not different today. Each person has to make the decision if you're going to walk in covenant with Yahweh or not. But understand, the covenant was not made just with you. The covenant was made with people. Walking with Yahweh, then we're walking with people. This is ordered to confirm to you today as his people. So he will be your God just as he promised to you and just as he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Not with you alone am I cutting this covenant and this oath, but with whomever is standing here with us today before Adonai our God, and with those who are not here with us today. Everlasting covenant for all time. Not just that day, but from there forward and on. Jeremiah 31, 33, and 34. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days. Talked about this new covenant that he is making with Israel. What is it? That I will put my Torah within them, and I will write it on their heart, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will each teach his neighbor or each his brother, saying, Know Adonai, for they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. It is a declaration of Adonai, for I will forgive their iniquity, then I will remember no more. New covenant, he's going to forgive your sin, remember them no more, and then we will know him. His word will be in our hearts. He said from the beginning, guys. In this new covenant, he doesn't change his word to make another covenant. He changes you. He writes his word within you. That's what can give us hope. Jeremiah 33:25. So thus says Adonai, if I have not made my covenant of day and night firm in the fixed patterns ordering the heavens and the earth, only then would I reject the offspring of Jacob and my servant David, so that I would not take from his offspring rulers over the offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, for I will restore them from their exile and have compassion on them. Yahweh says, I've made this covenant firm. Just like he's made covenant with day and night. If the day and night ceases, then we could say maybe the covenant he made with Israel stopped. Still has covenant with day and night. Very beginning of everything, what did he do? He made the darkness and the light. He made the day and the night. What else are we talking about to do? See, if we keep in focus of things where we keep focus, also means to avoid quarrels. It doesn't mean that we can't disagree. Matter of fact, I'll put it to you this way and just put it quite bluntly. I would be scared if we didn't disagree. You know, if we agreed on everything all across the board, that is scary to me. See, that means you're either in a cult or you're in the military. We're neither. It's not about, yeah, we disagree. It's about what do we do when we disagree? Treat each other differently? Do we handle things differently? Or are we still willing to focus on the bigger things? We can talk about things. We can disagree. But that doesn't mean we have to divide. Unity does not mean uniformity. Unity means you can be you as your individual with your own personality and your own things. But we have a common. Father. How do we do that? Avoid the things that bring division. Avoid the things that bring divisiveness. A lot of places talk about this. Do a couple. 2 Timothy 2, 22 and 23. Now flee from youthful desires. Instead pursue what? Righteousness, faithfulness, love, and shalom with those who call on the Lord from a your heart. Notice it doesn't say with those who call on the Lord with agreeing with every point of doctrine you have. It says those who call on the Lord. We're all wrong about something. We're all right about something. Keep him as the focus. Let's change instead of being more like what I think. 23. But avoid foolish and ignorant disputes, knowing they produce quarrels. What are we told to do? Avoid the things that produce fruit, bad fruit. Are the things that we're pursuing, does it produce fighting, murmuring, backbiting, calling each other names? Are these the things that we want to pursue? It doesn't produce good. We need to follow after things that produce fruit. Titus 3:8. Trustworthy is a saying, and I want you to insist on these things, so that those who have put their trust in God may be careful to devote themselves to what? Good deeds. What's the Hebrew word for good deeds? Mitzvot. We are. The things that Yahweh has commanded us. Things that He has said we should be doing. So that they focus ourselves on the mitzvot. These things are good and beneficial for people. But avoid foolish controversies, genealogies, and strife about disputes about the Torah. They're unprofitable, useless. Keep focused. Help when we see someone wandering. Help when someone needs help. Not everybody wants help. Someone wants to talk about the scripture we don't agree, that's fine. We'll talk. And we may not come to a resolution. Maybe we'll come back at another time and talk some more. We can talk. I'm not looking to debate. Because I'm not looking to win. But if you want to share the heart of the Father, then let's talk. If you have questions, let's talk. That's where it says if we see someone wandering, it's our responsibility to try to help bring him back. In other words, talk. Have a conversation with them. Deuteronomy 22:1 says, you're not to watch your brother's ox or sheep going astray and ignore them. You must certainly bring them back to your brother. Who are the sheep? All sheep. Isaiah 53:6, we all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us turned to his own way. So Adonai has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Again, if we're all like sheep from time to time, we wander off. We get distracted by something and we wander off. And sometimes we need someone to go say, hey, what are you doing all the way over here, man? Let's come back. Right? Jeremiah 50:6, my people have been lost sheep. Shepherds led them astray, turning around through the mountains, out from mountain to hill, and they forgot their resting place. Matthew 18:12, Yeshua says, what do you think? If a certain man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray, won't he leave the 99 on the mountains to go looking for the one that's straying? And 1 Peter 2:25 says, for you like sheep were going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and the guardian of your soul. We're sheep. And as sheep, we need a shepherd. Shepherd is our Messiah. He is the good shepherd. We need to keep our eyes on him. Matthew 24:3. So as he was sitting in the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately saying, tell us when these things will happen, and what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age. That sounds more and more like something that we're hearing today, doesn't it? So it's the end, that's it. It's the end of the world, it's the end of the age, that's it. Everything's done, everything's over, everything's going to end. We're just kind of looking for everything to stop. Right? What did Yeshua say? Yeshua said, be careful that no one leads you astray. That's your focus. Be careful. You can be led astray easily. Because, see, if that's what you're looking for, then you're going to be hearing all these voices of all these people who are telling you, yep, it's going to be this day, this time. Because many will come in my name saying, I'm the Messiah, and will lead people astray. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must happen, but it is not yet the end. 7, for nation will rise up against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places, but all these things are only the beginning of birth pains. And then they will hand you over to persecution and will kill you, and you will be hated by all nations because of my name. And then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. See how that happens? When the persecution comes, guys, we're not persecuted. There may be, like an individual may something. I'm sick and like grand scale persecution for the believers in Messiah Yeshua. Not like some of these. So here he says that many people will fall away and betray one another and hate one another because, well, don't you know, before life got this bad, I wasn't supposed to be here. Or before you say, I'm never supposed to experience tough things in life. Persecuted for my faith, that's not supposed to happen. Where did Yahweh ever say that you would not be persecuted? Where did he ever tell you that would be? Never said. He did say you would have hope. He did say you could have peace in the midst of it. He did say you could have. So, many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. What happens? The false prophets will arise and lead many astray. Notice, the betrayal and the hatred, and then the false prophets pop up telling people what they want to hear, so they lead them astray. And why is it so easily to happen? Because lawlessness will multiply the love of many. What does lawlessness mean? People walking without the word. Nomia is the word that's used there, meaning without nomos is the Torah. So without law, without the Torah, people miss the heart of God. What did he say over and over again? If you love me, keep my commandments. They don't know what they are. They don't know what the word says. They know how to walk in that relationship. Not saying you got to get everything perfect, but a matter of do we pursue to walk with him. Then what does verse 13 say? The one who endures to the end will be. That means you're going to have to go through some. So where is our focus in the midst of it? Are we looking for the lawlessness? Looking for the false prophets? Are we looking for the hatred and the betrayal and the anger and all these things? Or are we seeking the heart of the Father in the midst? Look, Philippians 2:12. Therefore, my loved ones. Good way to kind of start summing. Therefore, my loved ones. Just as you have always obeyed, not only in my presence, but now even more in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For the one working in you is God, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Notice this thing, guys. This is exciting because it says that Yahweh, the one who is working in you, Yahweh, the one who is working these things in your life, is not just willing to do these things for you, but he is able. He is capable and willing. He, not just, well, maybe I can. No, he says he is willing and able to work for his good pleasure. In other words, things that Yahweh has done in your life. Huh? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might. Is that just a one-time statement? Something that we need to be reminded of. Is it an all-encompassing things of our life? Because if you read it, that's what it's really talking about. It's not just, it says, here is the Lord your God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might, all your strength. And then it goes on to say, and these words that I'm giving you, you're to put them where? Doorposts on your gates. You're to talk about them. When? Basically in all the parts of your life. Walking in the Word of Yahweh is something that it encompasses you. And let's face it, you talk about what you love, don't you? You talk about what you enjoy. You talk about what you like. You're excited about something, you talk about it, don't you? You be around someone who's really excited about something and they can't talk about anything else? They're going to talk about it. That's what the Shema called us to do. It's not just a one-time thing. It's a lifestyle. Read. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. In the Torah scrolls, it is written, as you see here, with the Ayin and the Dalet enlarged. Ayin and the Dalet together is a word. Ed, it means a witness, testimony. Also, an Ayin means eye. Dalet is a door. Again, you could say it's to see the door. Who's the door? How do we see the door? Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord. You cannot testify the fact of who He is unless you belong to Him. Calling us to be witnesses. Live for Him. Live for Him, that we stand as witnesses to Him. And again, Ed, witness is also for the word edut, which means assembly. As a standing as a witness for Yahweh, we are standing as part of His people. In other words, we need to be consistent. We need to be faithful. Yahweh is ever. We need to be. Philippians 3:13. Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself as having take hold of this, but this one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, straining toward what is ahead. I press on toward the goal for the reward of the upward. It's not just saying, well, everything that happened before and yesterday doesn't matter, but those things that happened before aren't today. Continue to keep your eyes focused on what is before. Set your heart to you. Set your eyes to Him. Walk with Him. Philippians 2:14. Do everything how? Without grumbling or arguing. The only way we can do that is if we have more concern with Yahweh and His our own. Do everything without, so that you might be what? Blameless, innocent, children of God in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine like lights in the world. That your testimony of your working and your doing and the things that you do, you're serving Yahweh and serving His kingdom, and you're doing these things to glorify your Father in heaven, people are going to notice. They're going to see this, so that you will stand out as lights in the world. And Isaiah 42:5-7 says, thus says God Adonai, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and what comes from it, who gives breath to the people on it and the Ruach to those who walk in it. I, Adonai, called you in righteousness. I will take hold of your hand. I will keep you and give you as a covenant to the people, a light to the nations. How? By opening blind eyes, bringing prisoners out of the dungeon and those sitting in darkness out. Be a light to the nations by setting the captives free. Bring light into John 8:12, Yeshua says, I am the light of the world. Who follows me will no longer walk in darkness, have the light of life. He is the light of the world. He is the light that we 5:14-16. Yeshua said, you are the light. How can He be the light of the world and you be the light of the world? He lives in you. He is the light of the world and He dwells within you, then it is His light that is seen. In John chapter 1, it talks about the light of life that is in men. That's Him. So He is the light of the world, then you are the light of the world. Then He says, a city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden. He has not called you to be the light of the world so you can hide away somewhere. He called you to be the light of the world so that you can show Him to a dark. Verse 15, neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they put it on a lampstand so it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men so that they see your good works of your Father in heaven. How do we have a common unity, a common heart, one life, one purpose? How do we do this? Right here. You're the light of the world. How do we live? Let your light shine before men. How do we let that happen? Walking in, letting that live, letting that word that's written on your heart come out so that your light. They will see the things that you do and they will glorify your Father. When everything that we do becomes about All right. All stand? Yahweh told Moshe and Aaron, in verse chapter 6, when you bless my children, I will place my name upon them and give. Shalom, guys.